Chris, South Africa was recently grey-listed. How did this happen, and who decided that we are grey-listed?
Wow. So you can read the FIC Act until you're blue in the face. You will not hear reference made in the wording of the Act of the Financial Action Task Force or the FATF, but the organization which grey-listed South Africa is the FATF. It is an organization which was set up in 1989 as a spin-off out of the G20 countries to combat particularly money laundering at that stage, and it has since expanded its operations and its vision to incorporate as they start getting feedback and they see what other directions there are for criminals to behave, then obviously the FATF also expands. So they've after money laundering being an exclusively an anti-money laundering organization worldwide, they started later on to incorporate terrorist financing, and most recently they have also incorporated the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. So there's a big scope creep, but it is a necessary scope creep because those things are all not only correlated but causally connected to each other. So if you combat the one, of necessity you must combat the others. What the FATF does, think of it as a worldwide mass information gathering machine. That is what the FATF's purpose is. It gathers information from all its member countries and all other participants through secondary institutions and organizations that mirror the FATF but are more regional. They also, dotted down all across the globe. So they're trying to gather information in a specific format with regards to specific illegal activities or potentially criminal activities in order to process that information, to interpret the information, and to anticipate what the money launderers and the terror financiers and the sanctions busters' next moves are going to be. So I mentioned perhaps earlier in an introduction that they sweep with a very, very wide broom, and you can see here how wide that broom has to be. So worldwide, there are in excess of 200 countries that participate in the provision of this information to the Financial Action Task Force. They are quite strict in how and the format in which they will receive that information, and also the veracity of that information. So to ensure that they can rely on the information that they get from every country, okay, they set specific standards. And those standards relate to essentially three aspects. The first one is that they check that the country has the political will to combat terror financing, money laundering, and so on. The second aspect is that the regulatory regime, so the laws and the regulations that we have in place, must be sufficiently robust and must be aligned with what the FATF wants. And then thirdly, no good to have the best laws in the world if you cannot enforce them. So again, earlier on, I think we made reference to the fact that we see a hardening in the stance of the FIC, and that is precisely because South Africa has been a little bit lacking, perhaps not only in enforcement, but quite frankly in respect of all three of those. So the Financial Action Task Force for all participating countries, and let me just say that South Africa has been standing out in Africa since the inception of the Financial Action Task Force as the only fully fledged African country that is a member of the FATF. So the grey listing has been a real come-downer for us, because we've always been regarded as quite high up on the standards and requirements. So because South Africa was deemed during an inspection, because the FATF conducts periodic inspections to all its member countries, it's almost like in a compliance environment you would go and do monitoring at your client's place of business. They come to the country and they come and do an inspection. They make an assessment of the political will and the other things. And we were found wanting. The effect of the fact that as a country we were found wanting, which is the so-called grey listing, really just means that the source of the information which we remit to them and upon which they want to rely in order to set further international standards, okay, is questionable. And until we get an opportunity to fix that so that they get adequate assurance that they can rely on our information, we will not get back the grey listing status. We won't become whitelisted. So, but that is the role of the FATF. Internationally, massive information gathering and an analysis effort to combat those three things.
Thank you. Narishi, how would you see the effect, or how would you comment what was the effect of the grey listing and the Financial Action Task Force and everything that has gone on in the media on the ground? How has this affected your life?
So I think as a man in the street, suddenly you know who the FATF is when your country becomes grey listed, and you need to start understanding what this means. Practically, specifically around foreign direct investment. So countries that previously saw us as whitelisted, it was very easy for money then to come into our country. They felt safe. There was due diligence, but it wasn't at an enhanced level. Now that it's grey listed, as soon as anybody wants to invest in our country or we want to invest in theirs, we are seen as grey listed, and we now need to go through a lot more due diligence before we can pass all the hoops of being checked out as clean. What it also has done is, of course, change some key pieces of legislation around FICA, because that was one of the findings in the report, that we don't have a register of beneficial owners, as an example. We have the CIPC, who tells us who the directors are of each company, but we don't have a mass register in the country that says who owns what. So legislation had to be changed, but also we're seen now as grey listed, which means we've got to fix some stuff, but we've also got to go through a lot more hoops around legislation, around being due diligence at a much more enhanced level. And it means that until such time that we come off the grey list, we'd be seen like that. It does mean that money can leave South Africa, which is obviously not great for us. So it's in our interest to definitely get off the list. But we've seen other countries like Mauritius, who came off very quickly and fixed all the issues that they had. And I have no doubt we will fix it. Like Chris has said, in Africa, we were the only country that actually had some form of legislation in place that was highly regarded. So it was disappointing. It was expected. And I'm certain that we'll change our behaviors that we get off the list.
Thank you. Germa, your observations, the effects?
Yeah, so the effects, yeah, you can see and feel it everywhere. I agree with Narishi on the additional customer due diligence and trust that's obviously lost in us because of that. It was interesting, the exercise that was done by the FSCA, the registration of ultimate beneficial owners, as almost a last attempt to avoid getting onto that list, and it wasn't successful, unfortunately.
Maybe we can close out with this, Anton, but a very simple, practical example of the effect of grey listing is a few years ago I took a cab in London, and it was a short ride. I think the fee came to £2 or £3 or something like that. And I tried to pay with a £20 note. And the cabbie had held that £20 note up to the light, and he wrinkled it, and he checked it, and he tried to tear it. And it was absolutely perfectly okay note. And in the end, he gave it back to me. He said to me, please will you give me something smaller? Okay, because he just didn't trust it, because no one paid with it. And the effect at a macro financial and economic level on South Africa is exactly the same. People don't trust stuff that come from us anymore.
Sure, disappointing. But thank you. That gives us perspective of who the Financial Action Task Force is, why we are grey listed, and what the effects are. Thank you for joining us for this session.